Thank you.
Okay, so you're going to be getting a request to acknowledge. And just want to confirm everyone can see my title slide there that says Trust in Teams Masterclass. Yes, beautiful. Thank you. So we'll do a quick agenda check. So what we're going to be doing is asking you to just quickly introduce yourself in the chat. I don't know if we have full time for a full round table. And then we're going to dig into our topic today, which is trust. So we'll look at what is trust, what builds trust, what breaks trust, what is this term braving, which is part of the Dare to Lead curriculum. It's an acronym that helps us understand how trust is built. And then we'll talk about how can you take this learning back to your teams and the work that you're doing. Feel free to pop questions in the chat or just come off of mute if you have a question, or even just raise your hand and we can take questions as needed. So what I'd like you to do is just remind ourselves when we're virtual, it's easy to get distracted and get looking at our phone or looking at our email. So obviously something called you to sign up for this masterclass. Maybe you were voluntold that you were coming to this masterclass, but either way you're here. So I'll just invite you to play full out during these 90 minutes. So if we can have our cameras on, support one another, step into that discomfort sometimes when we're growing and learning. We'll be using polls, breakout rooms, virtual post-it notes, and all different kinds of things. So it'll be highly interactive. So I'm just going to invite you to say hello in the chat and let us know what you're hoping to get out of the session today.
No, I think you're supposed to chat it. Oh, we're supposed to type it.
Oh, you can say it too if you want. Hi.
Oh. Just. Yeah, I just.
Trisha said hello already in the chat. Happy to be here. Thank you. If you're more comfortable coming off of mute and saying hello, you can do it that way too. I'm flexible. Expanding skill set, yes. Building trust with one another. We have lots but want to increase it. Thank you, Matthew. Wonderful. Looking forward to learning and exploring. Thank you, James. I'll allow those to continue trickling in. So the first thing we're going to do is a bit of a poll. And my first question for you is, do you consider yourself trustworthy? So I'm just going to launch this poll. It'll prompt you to answer. And when we're done, I'll share the results. Do you consider yourself trustworthy? I'll just give another moment here before I end the poll. And then let me share the results. So can everyone see the results there? We all consider ourselves trustworthy, right? So let me stop sharing that, and then I'm going to ask you another question. My next question is, have you ever had trust broken? So up comes the second poll. Have you ever had trust broken? Ooh, interesting. Okay, so I'm going to end the poll and then share that. So most of us have had trust broken. And so the crux of this paradox is If we all consider ourselves trustworthy and yet we've all had trust broken, how can that be? How can that be? If everybody's trustworthy and yet trust has been broken, how can that be? Any ideas? Let's pop it in the chat or come off of mute. What are some ideas? If we're all trustworthy or we think we are, how could it be that we've had trust broken?
I'll jump in there, Laura. I think sometimes when maybe something was told to us in confidence, it wasn't we didn't perceive it as maybe a confidential conversation, and accidentally let it slip in the midst of maybe trying to console somebody else.
Yeah. So perhaps something's shared with us and we don't know that the expectation is that it's meant to be confidential. Yeah, great example. Anything else? Not everyone is trustworthy, I saw in the chat. Okay, yeah. The paradox of this is that we all have different ideas of what builds and breaks trust. So what's super important to you, like confidentiality in the example that Matthew shared, might not be important to me. And so a very simple example of this that I often provide is if I have a friend who, asks for me to loan them $20 and I give them $20 with the expectation that it's going to be returned and they never return it, that could be a big deal for me. And for other people, it'd be like, no big deal. It's only $20, right? So sometimes we inadvertently do things based on our perspective of what's important, and can break trust with others without even knowing that we've done it. And same goes the other way, right? So if something's important to us, but it's not important to somebody else, they might be doing something to us unintentionally without even knowing that that's a deal breaker for us. So this whole idea of trust is, what's important is to understand that we as individuals put different importance levels on certain elements of trust, and we need to understand that we could be breaking it without even knowing it. That's why we have to break it down into tangible, specific actions and behaviors so that we know what's important to one another and we know how our actions might be building or breaking trust. Does that make sense, everybody? Yeah. Okay. So I've got another little quiz for you, but this time it's on screen. So on your computer, if you go to the top where it says you are viewing Laura Cook's screen, there should be a view options and then an annotate. So if you can find view options, annotate, and then a second little menu will pop up. And what I'd like you to do is pick a stamp. So if you just hover over the stamp, and then you can choose whichever symbol you want there. On my screen, I'd like to know, do you openly give trust unless it is broken, or are you more on the side of things that trust has to be earned before it is given? And I'm sorry, I had hid the name of the
Where do we get the stamps? I'm not sure.
Oh, okay. Do you see the view options at the top?
View options, yes.
Okay, so click that, and then do you see an annotate or like a little pencil?
Oh, okay. And then, oh, okay, I see it. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Okay. Which one?
Yeah, so go ahead and you can put a vote in.
I'm not opening to give trust until it's broken. Yeah. And that's already too.
Okay. Good stuff. So we're seeing a little bit of a mix, right? So some of us openly give trust unless it's broken. Some of us feel like it has to be earned before it is given. And the reason why I asked this question is because it's really interesting, because if we all felt like it has to be earned, no one's going to go first, because to create trust requires vulnerability. I am going to share something with you like, hey, I'm not sure how to execute this task at work, or, I'm experiencing a bit of imposter syndrome, or need to share something vulnerable. I'm probably going to build trust with you. So somebody has to go first. And so it's that group on the left-hand side who openly give unless it's broken that are more likely to lean into that vulnerability of sharing things to build trust with others. And so when we ask this question, it's just interesting to know that we usually split out about 50-50. So I'm just going to clear those annotations now. So I'll ask you not to add any more for now, and we'll move on to the next topic. Does that make sense to everybody? So some of us are more willing to go first, and others we kind of feel like it needs to be built up before we can do that. Yeah. So I'm going to move on to this concept of braving, and braving is an acronym for trust, because as the work of Dare to Lead says, when we are leaning into trust, we're braving connection with one another. We're braving connection. And so I've got a little video I'm going to show you here. And then we're going to do a bit of an exercise around this braving trust concept. Before I move on, are there any questions? Any questions about this so far? We good? Okay. I just want to make sure that you can see the video. So I'm just going to play it for a quick moment, and then I'll just do a check-in with you to make sure that you can see everything okay. If you can just give me a thumbs up that you can see and hear it.
What is trust? What do we talk about when we talk about trust? Trust is a big word, right? To hear I trust you or I don't trust you, I don't even know what that means. So I wanted to know, what is the anatomy of trust? What does that mean? So I started looking in the research, and I found a definition from Charles Feltman that I think is the most beautiful definition I've ever heard. And it's simply this: trust is choosing to make something important to you vulnerable to the actions of someone else. Choosing to make something important to you vulnerable to the actions of someone else. Feltman says that distrust is what I have shared with you that is important to me is not safe with you. So I thought, that's true. And Feltman really calls for this, let's understand what trust is. So we went back into all the data to find out, can I figure out what trust is? Do I know what trust is from the data? And I think I do know what trust is. And I put together an acronym, BRAVING, B-R-A-V-I-N-G, braving. Because when we trust, we are braving connection with someone. So what are the parts of trust? B, boundaries. I trust you if you are clear about your boundaries, and you hold them, and you're clear about my boundaries, and you respect them. There is no trust without boundaries. R, reliability. I can only trust you if you do what you say you're going to do, and not once. Reliability, let me tell you what reliability is in research terms. We're always looking for things that are valid and reliable. Any researchers here or research kind of geeks? There's 10 of us. Okay, so we would say a scale that you weigh yourself on is valid if you get on it and it's an accurate weight. 120. Okay. So that would be a very valid scale. I would pay a lot of money for that scale. So that's actually not a valid scale, but we'll pretend for the sake of this. That's a valid scale. A reliable scale is a scale that if I got on it 100 times, it's going to say the same thing every time. So what reliability is you do what you say you're going to do over and over and over again. You cannot gain and earn my trust if you're reliable once, because that's not the definition of reliability. In our working lives, reliability means that we have to be very clear on our limitations so we don't take on so much that we come up short and don't deliver on our commitments. In our personal life, it means the same thing. So when we say to someone, oh God, it was so great seeing you, I'm gonna give you a call and we can have lunch. Yes or no? No. It was really great seeing you. Moment of discomfort, goodbye. Right? But honest. So B, boundaries are reliability. A, huge, accountability. I can only trust you if, when you make a mistake, you are willing to own it, apologize for it, and make amends. I can only trust you if, when I make a mistake, I am allowed to own it, apologize, and make amends. No accountability, no trust. V, and this one shook me to the core. Vault. The vault. What I share with you, you will hold in confidence. What you share with me, I will hold in confidence. But you know what we don't understand? And this came up over and over again in the research. We don't understand the other side of the vault. That's only one door on the vault. Here's where we lose trust with people. If a good friend comes up to me and says, oh my God, did you hear about Caroline? They're getting a divorce. And it is ugly. I'm pretty sure her partner's cheating. You have just shared something with me that was not yours to share. And now my trust for you, even though you're gossiping and giving me the juice, now my trust for you is completely diminished. Does that make sense? So the vault is not just about the fact that you hold my confidences. It's that in our relationship, I see that you acknowledge confidentiality. Here's the tricky thing about the vault. A lot of times, we share things that are not ours to share as a way to hotwire connection with a friend, right? If you don't have anything nice to say, come sit next to me. You know, that's our, yes or no? Like, our closeness is built on talking bad about other people. You know what I call that? Common enemy intimacy. What we have is not real. The intimacy we have is built on hating the same people. And that's counterfeit. That's counterfeit trust. That's not real. So the vault means you respect my story, but you respect other people's story. I, integrity. I cannot trust you and be in a trusting relationship with you if you do not act from a place of integrity and encourage me to do the same. So what is integrity? So I came up with this definition because I didn't like any of the ones out there, and that's what I do when I don't like them. I do. I look in the data and I say, what's integrity? Here's what I think integrity is. 3 pieces. It's choosing courage over comfort, choosing what's right over what's fun, fast, or easy, and practicing your values, not just professing your values. Right? I mean, that's integrity. In non-judgment, I can fall apart, ask for help, and be in struggle without being judged by you. And you can fall apart and be in struggle and ask for help without being judged by me. Which is really hard because we're better at helping than we are asking for help. And we think that we've set up trusting relationships with people who really trust us because we're always there to help them. But let me tell you this, if you can't ask for help and they cannot reciprocate that, that is not a trusting relationship. Period. And when we assign value to needing help, when I think less of myself for needing help, whether you're conscious of it or not, when you offer help to someone, you think less of them too. You cannot judge yourself for needing help, but not judge others for needing your help. And somewhere in there, if you're like me, you're getting value from being a helper in a relationship. You think that's your worth. But real trust doesn't exist unless help is reciprocal and non-judgment. The last one is G, generosity. Our relationship is only a trusting relationship if you can assume the most generous thing about my words, intentions, and behaviors, and then check in with me. So if I screw up, say something, forget something, you will make a generous assumption and say, yesterday was my mom's 1-year anniversary of her death, and it was really tough for me, and I talked to you about it last month. And I really was hoping that you would have called. But I know you care about me. I know you think it's a big deal. So I wanted to let you know that I've been thinking about that. As opposed to not returning calls, not returning emails, and waiting for the moment where you can spring, well, you forgot to call on this important, you'll make a generous assumption about me and check it out. Does that make sense? So we've got boundaries, reliability, accountability, the vault, integrity, non-judgment, and generosity. This is the anatomy of trust, and it's complex. Why do we need to break it down? For a very simple reason. How many of you in here have ever struggled with trust in a relationship, professional or personal? It should be everybody, statistically, right? And so what you end up saying to someone is, I don't trust you. What do you mean you don't trust me? I love you. I'm so dependable. What do you mean you don't trust me? How do we talk about trust if we can't break it down? What understanding trust gives us is words to say, here's my struggle. You're not reliable with me. You say you're going to do something, I count on it, you don't do it. Or maybe the issue is non-judgment. But we can break it down and talk about it and ask for what we need very specifically, instead of using this huge word that has tons of weight and value around it. We can say, here's specifically what's not working.
All right, wonderful. So let me just
What-
move on to that. And I'm going to stop sharing for a moment because I'd just like to hear from you. What stuck in that video? What stood out for you? Feel free to come off of mute, or if you're more comfortable sharing in the chat, whatever you like. What stood out?
I like how it's broken down.
How it's broken down?
Yeah, each letter, and yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
I like the vault, how vault is 2 parts.
Yeah.
Like you're sharing only what's yours, as well as holding what others share with you in the same regard.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
And for me, it was accountability to be able to say, yeah, I was wrong, or I take ownership of that when I have made a, broken trust or whatever.
Yeah, absolutely. Anything else?
We like how
Mine
I
would
can't-
be where it comes
Oh.
from.
Sorry, I think Crystal was sharing and we can't quite hear you, Crystal. So I don't know if you have to get a bit closer to the mic.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. We like how everything was based on clear and concise open communication. There
Yeah.
was no games per se. It's all just open, clear communication.
Yeah.
And vulnerability too with communicating.
Yeah. Being open and vulnerable and clear. And there aren't any facades or dancing around. It's the tagline for the Braving Trust module in Dare to Lead is clear is kind. So the more clear we can be and direct with kindness, the better. So yeah, thanks for calling that out. And I'm sorry, who's going to share next?
Darlene.
Mine, I was just going to say that for mine, as if you hear people talking about other people, then you wonder what they're saying about you when you're not there.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. The one for me that was tough, and let me know if the same for you, but this idea of non-judgment and how if we can't, or if we judge ourselves for needing help, we can't, whether we're conscious of it or not, judge others for needing help. Did that kind of bring anyone's armor up a little bit, or did anyone feel a little bit disagreeable to that, or did that resonate? Who likes to be the helper? Anyone? Do we like to help? How many of us like to ask for help? Hell no, right? Yeah. Yeah. So that's what that one's about. And I had to kind of reframe it in my mind because I'm like, I really don't feel like I'm judging other people for needing my help. So the way that I had to reframe it in my mind, and it might be helpful for you if that felt a little bit sticky, is that when I help somebody, it makes me feel good. And so if I'm always being the helper and never allowing that to be reciprocated, I am not allowing that other person to feel the good feeling of helping back, right? And so now when I ask for help more readily, it's because I'm like, oh, I'm giving them the gift of feeling good, right? And I think as long as it's balanced, not one of the two is always being the helper, then that's how you build trust there. So just a little insight there. I'm popping into the chat a link to the Braving inventory. It's a free download that you can save or print, and it has the Braving acronym and a little bit of a description of what each of the letters are. So that might be helpful for you to have. And after the session, I'll also send you a copy of that in PDF form and a link to the video. So the video is open source. You can use the video and show it with your teams if that's something that's of interest. Any other questions or comments about the Braving video before we pop into a little exercise? Nothing? Okay. So we're going to put you a little bit to work. I'm going to demo something first, and then I'll have you do this. So what I would like you to do, we're going to operationalize trust. What does that mean? It means we're going to think about what actions, words, or behaviors model each of the elements of trust. And so when we think about B for boundaries, what is an example of a boundary, or what actions, words, or behaviors reflect boundaries? And I'll give you an example here. So I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to pop a link into the chat to this tool. It's like an online sticky note board, and it just allows us to share in real time some of our thoughts. So can everyone see this board that says Braving Trust with the different headers? And I'll need a verbal because I lost your video all of a sudden.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So for each of these, what I'm going to have you do is just click on the plus button, and then I'd like you to write either an example of a boundary or what actions, words, or behaviors reflect boundaries. So an example might be for team meetings, we have our cameras on if virtual. That's a boundary, right? It's like a rule, what's okay, what's not okay. So you're going to type in your idea and press save. Once you put it on, you won't be able to see anybody else's answers. You'll just see your own answer. And so what I'd like you to do is for each of the 7, come up with one idea if you can. So either an example or what that means to you. Does that make sense what we're doing? Okay, so now if you want to edit or delete, you just click on the 3 buttons to the right of your card, and you can either edit it or delete it. So there is a way to fix it if you have an error or something. So I'm going to pop that link in the chat. You will have to launch it on your screen, and then when I see that most of us have put something in each column, we will debrief this exercise. Any questions before we get started? Are we good to go? You good? All right, I'll leave you to it. I'll give you about 10 minutes and then I'll check in. Okay, so we have about 2 more minutes. If you're still working, go ahead. If you're done, go ahead and pop a done in the chat, just so I can have a sense of how many more minutes I should give you to complete this beyond the 2. Thank you. All right, if you're still working on it, then I'll just ask you to wrap up your last sticker. Okay. So what I'm going to do next is have you work on a bit of analysis of the exercise we just did. So I'm going to unhide the cards so that you can see, and let me just switch my screen sharing to, oh, I won't switch yet, actually. I'm going to give you your instructions first. So what I'm going to do is split you up into 7 groups. So those of you that have 2, you'll probably just be working together in your office. But that we should have pairs. I think we have 13 or 14. If you need a partner, I can step into. So we'll have you, each room will be assigned a letter, and I'll give you about 10 minutes to just look through the responses and summarize what you're finding, and then I'll ask you to come back to the big group and then explain what you found. Does that make sense to everybody? So we're going to go in, look at the responses, summarize the key themes, then come back and report. Does that work for everybody? So you'll have to go back to your board, but you'll see that now that those are shared, and I'm just going to organize your breakout rooms. There's 4 of us here. Should we do our own group? Oh, yes, absolutely. If there's 4 of you there, you can do your own group. We'll keep you separate. We may need you to take in 2 letters, though. So let me just figure this out. Give me a moment. Let me get our 7 breakout rooms. Okay, so let me see. Mandeep, are you on your own?
Yes, I'm on. Nobody's with me. I'm at home, actually.
Okay, perfect. So Matthew and Jason, we'll put you together. You're going to take R, reliability. I'll rename the room so you know. And so I'm just going to mute you again, Mandeep. My apologies. So, oh, there's our group of 4, room 3, and you have 4 people, right? So if I can give you accountability and vault. We'll do that. And thanks for bearing with me while I figure this out. I am going to move. So Taylor and Manveet, you're going to take boundaries in group 1. Let me see what's going on here too. Sorry, I just need to figure this out a little bit because I've got multiples in one thing. So accountability and fault, boundaries, reliability. Okay, so Jeff and James, are you both singles? You have no one else in your office? I'm going to give you integrity. And then Crystal and Trisha. Now, Crystal, you have someone with you, right? So it might be a group of 3, non-judgment. Let me see if this is playing out okay. And then and Shara, did I say that right? Okay. Tori and Shara and company. I'm gonna give you generosity. And which one am I missing? We've got boundaries, reliability, accountability, vault, integrity, non-judgment, generosity. So Donna, I am going to put you in the integrity. Oh, which one did you say was important to you? Accountability. Oh, but that's a group of 4. So okay, I'm gonna put you in the generosity room. Okay, my apologies. That was a bit of a mess, but we've got it sorted. So your group name will show up in your group so you know which ones you're working on. You're going to look at your column, summarize your key findings, and then appoint somebody to report back. Is that okay? Any questions before I send you into your breakout rooms?
Is these breakout rooms going to pair us automatically? Because I don't see where this is supposed to pair us.
Yeah, it's going to pop up on your screen. And then you'll shoot off into a different room, and then you'll see in that room what the title is and who you're working with.
Okay.
Yeah. Anybody else have any
Technology's
questions? It's wild. Okay, I'm going to open the rooms. I'm here. If anyone gets stuck, you can also request help. So there's a button in your room to request help, and I can come and join you if you need anything from me. Oh, Taylor, you're on mute. Did you get kicked out?
Yeah.
Saying we're
just-
back. We had our little recap. We had a good conversation, and
Oh, okay. You're both
figured we'll
back.
join you.
Okay, sounds good. Sometimes
The
I get-
thing is, I have 3 kids in the house, so most of the time I mute myself.
Yeah, that's where I totally get it.
Yeah. So I
Thank
told
you.
Taylor that if we can share the stuff we shared with each other. Right now they are playing. I don't know. Did you see somebody's on my lap, or they are just coming here? Bum, bum, bum.
You've got lots of demands on your time. Yeah.
Yeah, 2 nephews and my son.
Oh, wow. That's a
Yeah.
lot to manage.
Yeah.
You've got your hands full. Thank you. So you were very efficient. You got done in, you have 3 minutes to spare, so feel free to like take a stretch break if you want. The
Sure.
rest of the group will be back in about just under 3 minutes.
Okay.
Taylor, I can't remember, did we do this similar exercise in your training or did we? I don't remember if we did or not.
Sorry, for which one in the previous?
Like when I came to your office and we did the training.
Yeah,
did we
yeah,
do this?
it was similar. Yeah, it was because it was
Similar.
Tori, myself, and Matthew,
Yeah,
the three of
yeah.
us in person.
Yeah,
But
I can't remember if we did trust as a topic or not.
yeah, I think we did. I
Okay.
vaguely remember this
Okay,
overall.
okay, so it's a bit of a recap for you.
Trust is always good with everyone, if you
good
haven't.
stuff. Yeah, right? Thanks.
Yeah.
All right, welcome back. The rest will be here shortly. There's about 44 seconds left. How was your discussion?
It was very good.
Nice. Welcome back. The others still have about 26 seconds. How was your conversation? Okay? Yeah, good. Welcome back. Teams and chat. Rest will be back shortly. Okay, I think everyone's popping back in now. Did everyone have enough time? Yes?
Yeah.
Okay, good stuff. So we will start with B for boundaries. Group 1, what did you come up with? Tell us what you found in the note cards.
Hey, so what we're really talking about, hopefully we were following what your interpretation was, but we're discussing how it is important to understand the difference between personal and professional time and trying to work within these boundaries and sticking to committed timeframes. You don't want to take someone away from other commitments that they may have, as well as trying to drag in whether the professional side into someone's personal side or vice versa. You don't want to have that overlap in most essentially conversations, but also understand that everyone has different beliefs, backgrounds, understanding, and respecting those opinions, and just trying to understand that a perspective someone else may have may not necessarily be wrong. It's always just trying to understand where they're coming from. Also, of course, when having meetings, staying focused on topic, trying to avoid those external distractions. One of the worst things is, again, someone pulling out their phone or watching TV or jumping on a different conversation when you're trying to have that face-to-face interaction, as it shows a sign of disrespect, as well as just overall really just breaking down that relationship, saying that, oh, my time's not worth yours or vice versa. And of course, also determining what is okay and what isn't okay to talk about, trying not to overstep outside of that comfort zone, asking permission if it's about a conversation that's personal, and really providing that space when needed, especially if you are starting and beginning to overstep.
Yeah, beautiful. Well done, group 1. That's very thorough and well articulated, Taylor. Thanks. What's interesting, I was looking at the cards while you were in your rooms, and what's really interesting is on the boundaries, I noticed 2 cards. One said, stay on topic until a solution is met. And the second one said, set meetings and agendas and adhere to them. Don't go down any rabbit holes. And I thought, interesting, because one person said, stay on topic until we get a resolution, which is probably that perceived rabbit hole of the person who wrote the next one, which was stay on topic, stay on time. And so here we can see how trust could be a tricky thing. If one person thinks it's more important to stay on time, another person says it's more important to stay on topic until we have resolution, we could potentially have a breakdown of trust there without even knowing it. So it's beautiful that that was just right there in the cards for us. So I think what's important in these situations is being able to articulate what's important to each of us and then agreeing for this circumstance, we're going to only stay on topic for this amount of time, or we will stay on topic until we get resolution, right? So interesting play out of that difference of opinion. Okay, group 2, reliability. Who had that one? What did he come up with?
That would be myself and Jason.
Okay.
But before we get into that, I'd like to talk about my weekend and what I did. And all kidding aside, what we talked about when we got into reliability was kind of 2 sides of it that Jason and I came up with. One was a standard one, what we all came up with, and most of our answers was, keeping your word, stay on time, punctuality, being present when you're in the meetings or having a conversation with somebody. Try not to overpromise and underdeliver. But the other thing we kind of got was looking at somebody who is maybe reliable versus someone who's not reliable. I know, for instance, I didn't want to blow too much smoke up Jason, but very, very reliable staff member of ours that you can, pretty much guarantee that if you ask him to do something, it's going to be done, and I don't have to follow up. He will immediately, if we give him a task, he will come back and say, well, this and that and that and this and then, give his thoughts. If he feels it can't be done, he won't just wait till I follow up and say, well, this is the reason it couldn't be done. I know if I don't hear anything back, it's done. So to me, that's a very reliable employee. So again, you get to the factual points of what someone thinks reliable, then turn it over to actually someone's personal traits as well.
Yeah, wonderful. And it's nice that you could give some kudos as part of this exercise. So that's don't know if Jason likes.
I'm only as good. Sorry, I just need to interject. somebody that's reliable, like Matthew's saying, they're only as good as the team that surrounds you, that's willing to work in that the same capacity that you are. So I will distribute the smoke amongst the rest of my team.
Nice, wonderful, nicely done. But yeah, if we can describe, like you did, Matthew, what reliability looks like. I've given a task. If there's questions and parameters, they're made clear right away. I can let go and just trust it'll be done, and they're going to proactively follow up with me to let me know and close the loop. So being able to describe, what does reliability look like? What is my expectation of how you're going to show up when I'm talking about the word reliability helps people perform to that level then, right? So the more clear we can be about what that means, what it looks like, the more likely we're set up for success to perform to that level or expectation. Great job. Okay, who had A, accountability? All right, let us know what you came up with.
It's all right there. Do you want me to go? Sure. Hi. Hi.
Hi.
I'm not on camera, but Bryn's the speaker over here somewhere. For accountability, we got owning up to your faults, mistakes, and actions, and offering solutions, making amends or explaining yourself, and not looking to place blame elsewhere.
Yes. So we take responsibility, we own our mistakes, and we don't try to deflect and blame external circumstances. Is that what I heard you say? Yeah, good job. And you also had the vault, right?
Oh. Well, so we had asked in the chat if we were supposed to be doing both vault and accountability, and didn't get an answer, so we only did.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't get that chat from you. That's okay, no problem. So you didn't do vault?
No, and then our power went out, so
Yeah, no problem.
Trying to get back on.
No problem. We'll do vault in real time right now. So holding in confidence, I'm seeing. If I don't have anything nice to say, don't say it. Empathy to one's shared experience. Keep what you know to yourself, unless someone's in danger. And I really like that distinction. Like if it breaks a regulatory or legal or personal safety issue, then you're going to have to break the vault sometimes as a leader. So being clear on that, that, you know, you've shared with something now that I'm required to act upon. Here's how I'm going to do that. Here's how I will share it. Here's how I will keep you in the loop. Because sometimes people do share things with us that we do have to break that expectation of confidentiality. But as long as we're upfront about it and what that's going to look like. So I'm glad somebody called that out. It doesn't benefit me to put others down. I saw lots around rumors and gossiping. Hold personal natured conversations to yourself. Yes, share what's only what yours to share. You know, there's only certain trusted relationships where we can maybe open up a little bit more about our personal lives. But, you know, it's that tricky line between what's kept professional, what's kept personal, because our personal lives will impact our work performance. So sometimes we do need to let the veil down a little bit so that I can share, you know, I'm going through something tough, or I'm caring for an elderly parent. I might need to, maybe I'm not going to be at my 100%. And a tool that I will give teams often is, if you want to check in daily and just say, how full is everybody's cup? How full is everybody's cup today? I'm dealing with some stuff, or I'm not feeling well, I'm at 80%. I've got some capacity, I can give you an extra 10% today. Whatever that is, but that's a quick little check-in you can use just to see how everybody's doing and, you know, level up the skills a little bit. If someone breaks their vault with you, make sure it ends with you. I love this one. So if someone breaks it with you, you can decide that it ends there and you're not going to pass it any further. Be prepared to be thrown under the same bus you throw others under, or don't at all. That's fair. It's very karmic. If you're telling a story, a good rule of thumb is to keep it being about you and not others. Oh, great. So those are some elements of vault. All right, moving on to integrity. Who had integrity?
That was James and I.
Okay, go ahead. What's to come
And
up?
yeah, so the biggest takeaway was that it was a lot of just to be positive, to be honest, of course, be consistent the right way if you can. And just the golden rule, treat others as you want to be treated. Of course, do the right thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. And the right thing might look different for us. So being clear about what the right thing is. And I've heard in some diversity, equity, inclusion training that I've done is that there's now the platinum rule, which is treat others as they would like to be treated. So just a little add on to your golden rule there. Great job. Thank you. Okay, non-judgment. Who had that one?
We did.
Great. What did you come up with?
Sure,
Can't hear you very well.
Having a hard time hearing you.
Sorry.
Yeah.
What we're seeing a lot in the column is just listening first, processing that, and then going forward. But one thing that I had heard a while ago was our judgment is based on your perception of that person. It's something inside of you. So yeah, I thought that that kind of went well with that. When it comes to judgment, it is first your perception of the situation, and then you need to kind of be self-aware of that before you move forward.
Yeah.
And I think that was kind of, I'm seeing a lot of just acceptance, just accepting that person's perception too.
Yeah, love that. Thank you so much. And I love what you said about perspective, because when we talk about perspective, we all bring our own shared experiences, history, identities into our day-to-day. And you know, when you say take someone else's perspective, your perspective, like the way Brene says, is your perspective is soldered to your head. You can't take it off and put someone else's on. But what you can do is believe that their perspective is true for them. And so while that may not be my experience, as long as I believe that what you're sharing as your perspective is true for you, then that's how we can get to better trust and understanding. Great job. In integrity, there was a card around pickle someone, and Trisha asked a great question in the chat. What does it mean to pickle someone? I don't know. Can someone answer that?
Did you want us to talk about it?
Oh,
I was
yeah.
gonna say, one of us could say it.
So we were the ones that put that in there just because we wanted to bring attention to it at SACL. We use the word pickle when we hear something in a conversation that like one of our coworkers was having that maybe they shouldn't be having when there's other people around. Or yeah, just in general. Yeah.
So is that like a code word? Like someone says pickle and then we just.
Yeah, and we all just know to stop talking.
I love that.
And then it's like, then you're not bringing attention to it when we have our person supported around, so they're not brought into.
And I think it makes
that.
people feel more comfortable than
coming out
just
and
using that word.
Yeah.
Interesting. That's so smart. Great. Thank you so much for sharing that. Thanks for asking, Trisha. I had the same question. And for those who don't know, SACL is SWAP Association for Community Living. Is that correct? Yeah, they're doing great work in community, this group. Thank you so much. Okay, generosity. Gee.
Okay, I guess we'll speak. What we kind of went through, the list, and what we kind of got was approach with curiosity instead of judgment. Well, treat people how you want to be treated, but I guess also how they want to be treated. Be open to help and to be helped, like both ways, and to be non-judgmental.
Yeah, so N and G kind of go hand in hand, don't they?
Sorry, more here. The benefit of the doubt to, that how that was explained was like, don't assume that someone, like if someone broke the vault, for example, don't assume that they did it on purpose. Like
Yeah,
it was like what was said about that it was important to you, but it may not be important to them, or, you know, they didn't realize that you're not supposed to say something. So it's just the benefit of the doubt that they weren't being malicious or anything like that.
yeah. Beautiful.
Yeah, be kind and helpful. Thank you. But yeah, that's kind of the just what we got from the list.
Lovely. Thank you so much. You know, often when things happen, we make up stories to fill in missing data. And, you know, a very simple example of this might be I arrange a meeting with somebody. It's a virtual meeting. I show up on Zoom and crickets, nobody's there, right? So I start making stories in my head like, what? They don't respect my time, or what the heck? And yet I can stop myself and say, what's the most generous interpretation of this situation? Okay, they're caught in traffic, something's come up in their family, whatever, right? But we tend to make up stories and we tend to go to the worst assumption that we can make, right? I don't know why we do that as humans. Maybe it's just me who's guilty of that. But yeah, if I can catch myself, I'll say, okay, wait, what's a kinder or more generous interpretation of this situation right now? So great tools. Great job, everybody. This is a thorough list. I will share out this data with you after the session here today, so you have a copy of it. I have got to move us along because we have lots left to cover here. So what I'd like you to do next is just to consider the elements of trust. I'm going to pop up my chat here. And if you can just type in the chat, which element is most important to you? So out of the braving, which one do you think is the most important for you? Like, don't break this element. There's reliability, a couple of reliabilities. Ooh, lots of reliabilities. Oh, Trisha, there's lots of equally important ones. Yeah. Reliability, integrity. Thank you, Crystal, Amy. Yeah. And you know, this is, oh, Jeff Vault, fair. Yeah. There's no right or wrong. Integrity, Vault, another Vault. Thank you. So one simple thing you can do with your team is have this conversation. What's most important to you in terms of these items? And how does that look? The way Matthew was talking about how reliability looks, what does that look like for you? And then once we know, we can show up for each other in those ways. Oh, thank you, Tiffany. Integrity, Vault, generosity from Riley, Sydney, Vault, reliability, Bryn, accountability, and Vault. Okay. Yeah, so great conversation to have with your team. So the other thing I'll have you to self-reflect on is this concept of we also have to be able to trust ourselves. If we don't have self-trust, it's hard for us to trust others. And so, so maybe takeaway or homework for you might be to think about, out of all of the elements, which ones do you think you're doing well, and which one do you think you most need to work on? And how might you approach things differently, knowing that you might need to work on that differently? So I'll just leave that question with you to self-reflect and think about. I won't ask you to share that. That's a bit of a vulnerable thing that I'm asking you to reflect on, but it's great to know, you know, I'm really reliable, but you know, sometimes I'm not so great with my generosity, right? And when we have conflict with others, it's usually because they're showing up strong in an area that we're not so strong, and they're showing up, well, I don't want to say weak, but not as strong in an element that we are very strong in. And that's typically when we'll see agitation or group conflict or dynamic changes, right? So having this braving concept gives us a language to be able to talk to people, to say, hey, to me, reliability means I give you a task, I can just know and trust that you're going to get it done if I don't hear from you. To me, reliability looks like this. You know, the more we can define it, the better. So the thing I will leave with you next is, as your teams, I know there's some intact teams here, a takeaway can be to create a team charter. So go through the braving acronym. If you have team members who haven't participated in this, you can show them the video or show them the handout, have a conversation, and then look at each element and define your expectations for each. So I'm going to give you an example here that I just, and I'll give you guys these PDF of these slides as well. I don't normally give my slides out, but I will for this one. So what does a team charter look like? Boundary, and this is just some examples I came up with. You get to define for your own team what that means, right? So boundaries, we don't contact one another after working hours unless it's an emergency. During Zoom meetings, our cameras are on. Reliability, we get things done when we say we'll have them done, and we show up consistently. I might even dig into that one a little bit to say, what does consistent mean to everybody? The same mannered, the same frequency, right? What does consistency mean? So the more you can define these terms and get more granular, the better. So just an example here, and like I said, I'll give this to you, but go back to your team and create a charter, because then you have an agreement in place to hold one another accountable to. So if we agree that we are going to stay in contact with our clients, for example, and again, I would push you to say, what does that mean? What does it mean to stay in contact? Is it once a day? Is it once an hour? Is it whatever that is, but defining it, because then if someone I'm working with, if I hear from a client to say, I haven't heard anything in 2 days, I can call up my colleague and say, hey, just heard from this client. We agreed we were going to check in every day. They didn't hear from you for the last 2 days. Help me understand what's going on, right? We can start holding each other accountable for that. So I've been blabbing. I'm going to pause for a moment. Are there any questions? Any questions about trust that you came into the session with hoping to get answered and remain unanswered? You're all tired and we just want lunch?
Laura, one of the comments I think on the slide previous was about self-trust. Could you elaborate a little further on that?
Yeah.
How does one go about building self-trust?
That's a great question. And I'm going to send you out a handout that has a self-trust assessment, because there's two things we need to look at. One is each of the elements. So let's take boundaries as an example. How well are we setting and holding boundaries with ourselves? And how well are we setting and holding boundaries with others? So if, for example, my self-trust will increase if I am holding myself to a boundary and if I'm holding others to my boundary. So there's two kind of pieces to that, right? So it's really taking time to reflect on, do I set and hold boundaries for myself, or do I let those bleed, right? Because if I let them bleed, I'm going to not trust myself as much. And if I set a boundary with others, do I hold it? Because if I let them in when I've tried to set a boundary, I'm not going to trust myself. Does that make sense? So it's really a matter of looking at each element and assessing yourself, and then, you know, looking at these examples of what each of those things mean and trying to employ more of those qualities. It's a journey, Trisha.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks, Laura.
You're welcome. Any other questions? So for those of you who would like to dig deeper and haven't done the full Dare to Lead program, this is like a small example of the module of one of the 4 skill sets of courageous leadership. I see many of you who have done the full program, so appreciate you. For those who haven't, I am offering $200 off with the promo code Masterclass. So if you need to contact me, I can also coach you one-on-one. Or do custom workshops for your team, and appreciate you. So hopefully you've received some value out of today. Would love to just see in the chat, or if you want to come off mute and offer like what's one key takeaway or what stuck for you from this session. Would love to know. We have a few minutes for that.
I think for my team, Laura, we're going to dig into this a little bit deeper to make sure it's quite customized for everybody's personalities and our company culture here as well. So it does fit and then extrudes outside our company walls to our customers as well.
Yeah, so defining trust and what it means for your team, taking into account everybody's kind of preferences and strengths, and then also saying, how do we build trust with our customers? What does that look like? Is that right? Yeah,
Exactly.
cool
Like
stuff.
for instance, hey, we should tell our customers blah, blah, blah. Someone might not be comfortable doing that. Okay, like you
Right.
said, talk about leveling out the scales. I have no problem with doing that. I'll take that
Yeah.
one.
Yeah, good stuff. Love it. Thank you, Trisha. Appreciate it. Yeah. Any other questions or comments? Okay, we will do let's just do a 2-word checkout then. I'd like you to think about 2 words that reflect how you're feeling now. There's no right or wrong, and just pop them in the chat or come off of mute. I'm grateful. Thank you to all of you for attending. And I am also inspired. Thanks for participating and being all in. Empowered and appreciative. Thanks, Trisha. Thanks, Jason. Aware of others. Interesting. Grateful and thankful. Thanks, Jeff. Empowered, inspired. Thanks, Crystal. Thanks, Donna. Okay, I am going to stop our recording here. Motivated and stimulated. Wow. Informed and appreciative.